What if a teacher mocked a black girl's mind only to unleash a genius? At 14, Amara Ellis defied a cruel challenge, and her truth shook a school to its core. Stay for her triumph. The clock in room 204 of Crestwood Middle School ticked past 9:15 a.m. when Amara Ellis slipped through the door, her breath uneven, her backpack clutched tight against her chest. The classroom buzzed with a low hum of eighth graders, some scribbling notes, others whispering over dog-eared textbooks, but it fell silent as Ms. Evelyn Harper's voice sliced through like a winter gust. "Late again, Amara," she said, her thin lips curling into a frown, her chalk-dusted fingers pausing over the whiteboard. "Find your seat. Now!" Amara hesitated, her sneakers rooted to the floor, her eyes darting across the room rows of desks, faces half-turned, a sea of expectation. "I'm sorry, Ms. Harper," she murmured, her voice soft, almost swallowed. Can I stand for today's lesson, please?" Evelyn's eyebrows arched, her face flushing a faint pink. "Stand," she repeated, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Absolutely not. Sit down like everyone else." Amara's fingers tightened around her backpack straps, the ache in her lower back pulsing a reminder of last week's punishment, when Evelyn's ruler had cracked across her knuckles for sloppy work. Sitting felt like pressing on a bruise, but who would believe her? "Ms. Harper, my back," she started, her voice barely audible. "Your back." Evelyn's voice rose, mocking, drawing snickers from a few desks. "What's next, Amara? A headache? A lost dog?" The laughter swelled, led by Corey, the class jester, who mimicked a fake sob. Amara's cheeks burned, but she stood her ground, her heart pounding. "I can't, Ms. Harper," she said louder now, her words trembling but firm. The room went still, the air thick with tension. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint sparking in them. "Well then," she said, her voice dropping to chilling calm, "since you're so unique today, maybe you'd like to prove just how special you are." She turned to the whiteboard, erasing the day's algebra problem, a simple equation about slopes, and began scrawling a tangle of symbols. Integrals, exponents, functions that looked like they belonged in a college lecture hall. The marker squeaked, each stroke deliberate, cruel. "This," Evelyn announced, stepping back with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "is a calculus problem for my 11th grade honors class. Since you think you're above my rules, Amara, let's see if you're above this." The class erupted in laughter, Corey's guffaw loudest of all. "You've got 5 minutes," Evelyn added, glancing at her watch, "or it's detention for a week." Amara stared at the board, her pulse racing, fear clawing at her chest. But beneath it, something else stirred recognition. Those symbols weren't strangers. They were old friends, one she'd met in secret, far from this room's judgment. Every Wednesday and Friday night for the past year, while her classmates scrolled TikTok or played Fortnite, Amara had slipped into the Crestwood Public Library, not for manga or romance novels, but for a quiet corner where numbers danced. "Back again, Amara?" Ms. Lena, the librarian with a silver braid and a warm smile, would say, waving her toward the math section. Amara's love for numbers had sparked at 8, when her mom, a janitor who dropped out of school, showed her how to balance the family's budget on a napkin. "Math doesn't lie, sweetheart," she'd said, her hands callous but gentle. "People might, but numbers don't." At home, in a cramped apartment shared with her mom and little brother, Amara's bedroom was a shrine to equations, walls taped with printouts of theorems, graphs sketched in fading marker. Her mom worked nights, her dad long gone, leaving Amara to juggle school, chores, and dreams too big for their small space. 6 months ago, she'd found a treasure at the library, a calculus textbook, its pages yellowed, left on a table by mistake. The curves of integrals, the logic of derivatives they called to her, promising patterns that made sense when the world didn't. With YouTube tutorials and math forums, she taught herself, scribbling solutions by flashlight to avoid waking her brother. "Amara, dinner!" Her mom would call, and she'd hide her notebooks under the bed not out of shame, but to spare her mom's worry. Once her mom caught her, bleary-eyed at 2 a.m., a page of limits glowing on her phone. "What's all this, baby?" she'd asked, picking up a notebook. "Just stuff I'm learning." Amara had mumbled, nervous. Her mom had studied the equations, her tired eyes softening with pride. "You're gonna fly, girl," she'd said, kissing her forehead. "Don't let nobody clip your wings." That quiet faith kept Amara going, even when school felt like a cage. At Crestwood Middle, no one knew her secret. To her classmates, she was just Amara, quiet, average, the girl who got CS in math because she was too shy to ask questions. To Ms. Harper, she was a problem late too often, homework spotty, a target for discipline. But now, standing before a whiteboard scrawled with calculus meant to crush her, Amara's hidden world was about to spill into the light. The classroom held its breath. 25 pairs of eyes pinned on her, some mocking, some curious, all waiting for her to fail. For minutes left, Evelyn said, her voice thick with satisfaction, arms crossed like a judge. "Maybe this'll teach you to respect my rules." Amara barely heard her, her mind racing, tracing the problem's shape. It was an integration by parts, tricky but familiar, like a puzzle she'd solved under the library's dim lamps. Her fear ebbed, replaced by a steady pulse of clarity. With trembling fingers, she picked up a marker and stepped to the board. "Oh, she's actually trying," Corey whispered, sparking giggles. Evelyn leaned against her desk, her smile smug, certain of victory. Amara's hand moved, slow at first, then faster, the marker sketching substitutions, unraveling the problem step by step. The laughter faded, replaced by confused murmurs. "What's she writing?" a girl hissed. "No way that's right," Corey muttered. "Quieter now." Amara lost herself in the numbers, the pain in her back melting away, the classroom blurring into nothing. There was only the problem, its logic unfolding like a song. 3 minutes later, she drew a double line under her answer, her breath catching as she turned to face the room. The silence was deafening, broken only by Evelyn's sharp intake of breath as she pushed off her desk and strode to the board. Her eyes scanned Amara's work, darting from line to line, her smugness cracking into confusion, then disbelief. This is, she stammered, her voice faltering. Amara stood still, her heart pounding but her gaze steady. She knew she was right. Evelyn's face hardened, her voice snapping like a whip. "Where did you copy this from, Amara? Did you sneak a phone in here?" The accusation stung, but Amara held her ground. "I didn't copy," she said, soft but firm. "I solved it." "Impossible!" Evelyn shot back, her cheeks flushing crimson. "You're scraping by in my class. You can't solve calculus." "But I did," Amara insisted, her voice gaining strength. "It's integration by parts. If you check enough." Evelyn cut her off, her eyes blazing. "I won't tolerate cheating in my classroom." She snatched a marker from Amara's hand, scribbling over the solution, erasing her work in angry strokes. Then, in a flash of fury, she grabbed Amara's scratch paper and tore it in half, the pieces fluttering to the floor. "Principal's office now," she shouted, pointing to the door. "For cheating, disrespect, and disrupting my class." Amara gathered her backpack, her hands shaking but her head high, the class staring in stunned silence. Corey, usually her loudest critic, watched with wide eyes, a flicker of something new respect, maybe crossing his face. But Ms. Harper, a small voice piped up from the back. It was Nia, a quiet girl who rarely spoke. What if Amara's right? Evelyn's glare could have frozen fire. Not another word. Amara walked to the door, her steps steady despite the storm inside her. Behind her, the torn paper lay scattered, proof of a truth Evelyn refused to see. She'd solved the impossible, and they all knew it. Amara sat on a creaky bench outside Principal Claire Monroe's office, her backpack a shield against her chest. The secretary typed, glancing at her with a mix of pity and curiosity. This wasn't her first time here late slips, attitude, complaints, but this felt different, heavier. Through the frosted glass door, Evelyn's voice rose, sharp and indignant. "A clear case of insubordination and cheating," she said, her shadow pacing. "She refused to sit, disrupted my class, and somehow produced a calculus solution she couldn't possibly know. It's absurd." "You're certain she cheated?" Principal Monroe's voice was deep, measured. "Absolutely," Evelyn snapped. She's a C- student. Calculus? Impossible. She must have memorized it or hidden notes. Amara closed her eyes, the weight of it all pressing down. Evelyn had always targeted her ruler cracks for sloppy papers, extra homework for laziness, but this was worse. She'd done something right, something extraordinary, and it was being twisted against her. The door opened and Principal Monroe appeared, tall and stern, her graying hair pulled back tight. "Come in, Amara," she said, her tone flat but not unkind. Amara entered, standing carefully, her back still tender. Evelyn sat in chair, lips pursed, eyes cold. "Ms. Harper's told me her side." Monroe began, settling behind her desk. "What do you have to say?" Amara took a breath, her voice quiet but clear. "I didn't cheat, ma'am. I solved the problem. It was calculus, and I've been studying on my own." Evelyn scoffed, loud and sharp. "Preposterous. You've never shown any talent in my class." "That's not true," Amara said, her voice steadying. "I've been learning advanced math for a year now." "A likely story," Evelyn cut in, her tone dripping disdain. "What's next? You're secretly a professor?" Monroe raised a hand, silencing her. "Amara, why wouldn't you sit in class?" Amara's eyes flicked to Evelyn, her warning glare unmistakable. She swallowed hard. "My back hurts," she whispered, barely audible. "From what?" Monroe pressed, leaning forward. Amara hesitated, her gaze dropping. "I fell," she said, the lie bitter on her tongue. Evelyn seized it. "She's lying," she said smoothly. This is just an excuse to justify her behavior. First refusing to sit, now this cheating stunt. It's all for attention. Monroe studied Amara, her expression unreadable. "Ms. Harper's been teaching for decades. Amara, if she says this problem was beyond you, I'm inclined to trust her." Amara's heart sank, the room closing in. Months of late nights, of integrals glowing on her phone, of her mom's proud smile that meant nothing if no one believed her. "I solved it," she said, her voice cracking. "I can solve another one, any calculus problem." Evelyn's laugh was a blade. "This act is getting old." 2 days detention, Monroe decided, scribbling a slip, for insubordination and disruption, and a warning about cheating. The slip landed in Amara's hand like a stone. But before she could leave, a knock sounded. The door opened, revealing Ms. Layla Brooks, the science teacher, her bright eyes clouded with concern. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, glancing at Amara. "I heard Amara was here. Is everything okay?" "Just a disciplinary issue, Layla," Evelyn said dismissively. "Nothing for science to worry about." Layla's brow lifted. "If it's about one of my best students, it concerns me." "Best student?" Evelyn scoffed. "Amara?" "Yes," Layla said firmly, turning to Monroe. "What's she being punished for?" Monroe cleared her throat, uneasy. "Ms. Harper says she was disruptive and cheated on a calculus problem meant as a lesson." Layla's eyes widened. "Calculus? And you think she cheated?" She looked at Amara, her voice softening. "Is this tied to your science project last year?" Amara nodded, a spark of hope igniting. "What project?" Monroe asked, frowning. Layla smiled. "Amara's model of traffic flow, using differential equations. It took second place district-wide. Most juniors couldn't touch it." Evelyn's jaw tightened, her silence loud. "I noticed her math skills in lab reports," Layla continued. "She was using calculus I never taught her. When I asked, she showed me her notebook self-taught. Incredible work." She turned to Amara. "You still have those, right?" Amara nodded, stronger now. "That's impossible," Evelyn sputtered. "She's failing my class." "Because your class doesn't challenge her," Layla said bluntly. "No offense, Evelyn, but she's miles ahead." Monroe leaned back, processing. "Why didn't I know this?" "Amara doesn't like attention," Layla said, glancing at her with a soft apology. "But I can't let her be punished for shining." The room shifted, Evelyn's composure fraying. "This doesn't excuse her refusal to sit," she insisted, voice rising. "I'd like to know why," Layla said, her tone careful but firm. Amara, you said your back hurts? Amara shifted, wincing, her eyes flicking to Evelyn's glare. Layla noticed, her voice gentle. Can you show us? Evelyn stood abruptly. This is absurd. We're wasting time on theatrics. Sit down, Ms. Harper, Monroe commanded, her voice steel. Amara, please. Reluctantly, Amara lifted her shirt just enough, revealing red welts across her lower back marks of a ruler, raw and unmistakable. Layla gasped softly, Monroe's face darkening as she rose. Who did this? She asked, though her eyes locked on Evelyn, whose color drained. I fell, Amara whispered, lowering her shirt, the lie automatic. Amara, Layla said, her voice warm, steady. Those aren't from a fall. Evelyn jumped in, her voice shrill. She's manipulating you. Those could be from home, a fight anywhere. Monroe's jaw clenched. Enough, Ms. Harper. Amara, was this at school? Amara stared at the floor, silent, the weight of Evelyn's glare crushing. Last week, she finally whispered. I wasn't fast enough at the board. The words hung like smoke, poisoning the air. Monroe's expression turned thunderous. This meeting is over, she said, her voice low, dangerous. Ms. Harper, we're not done. To Amara, you're dismissed, but we'll talk again. As Amara left with Layla, Evelyn's voice rose behind the door, indignant but faltering. This is outrageous, she snapped, but Monroe's response was too soft to hear, its tone final. Amara walked down the hall, her hands trembling, her mind a storm of fear and relief. She'd spoken her truth, and it hurt, but it was out. Layla's hand rested lightly on her shoulder. You did good, Amara, she said. This isn't over. Amara nodded, the hallway stretching endless before her. But for the first time, she didn't feel alone. Amara sat outside Principal Monroe's office the next morning, her backpack a familiar shield. Her back still tender, but her resolve stronger. Inside, Monroe and two teachers were waiting, not Evelyn, who'd been sent home pending investigation. The air felt different, lighter, like a storm had broken. Good morning, Amara, Monroe said as she entered, her voice softer than yesterday. We're here to talk about your math skills. Ms. Brooks says you're exceptional. Is that true? Amara nodded, hesitant. I've been studying calculus on my own. Monroe leaned forward. We'd like to test that, fairly, under supervision. No pressure, just show us what you can do. Would tomorrow work? Amara's stomach nodded, but she nodded again. Yes, ma'am. Monroe's eyes softened. And about your back, we're contacting your mom today. No one should hurt you. Amara, I'm sorry we failed you. The words landed like a bomb, unexpected and warm. Thank you, Amara whispered, her voice catching. That evening, Amara sat at the Crestwood Library, her usual table piled with textbooks. Across from her was Dr. Malik Jordan, a math professor from the local college who'd met her 6 months ago at a community math workshop. Back at it, Amara? He'd said then, spotting her tackling a calculus problem meant for undergrads. They'd bonded over integrals, and he'd offered to mentor her weekly, free of charge. You got a rare mind, he'd told her, his gray beard framing a kind smile. Don't let anyone dim it. Now, as she explained the classroom ordeal, Evelyn's mockery, the welts, the tester's face darkened. That's not just wrong, he said, voice low. It's abuse. You're stronger than they know. Amara. She looked down, shy. I'm scared for tomorrow. What if I mess up? Malik leaned forward, his eyes steady. Math isn't about being perfect. It's about seeing clearly. You see better than most. Trust that. They worked late, not drilling problems, but exploring patterns, building her confidence. I'll be there tomorrow, Malik added as they packed up. Not for the test, that's your stage. But after, to back you up, Amara's chest warmed. You do that. It's what mentors do, he said, smiling. We lift you up. The next morning, Amara arrived at Crestwood early, her stomach a knot of nerves. Ms. Brooks waited outside the testing room, her smile a lifeline. Ready to shine? She asked. I think so, Amara said, clutching her pencils. Inside, Monroe sat with a sealed envelope. "This test covers algebra to calculus," she said, her tone formal but kind. 2 hours, as many problems as you can. I'll stay to monitor. Any questions? Amara shook her head, taking her seat. Monroe opened the envelope, sliding the papers over. "Begin." The first problem was basic algebra 2 easy, almost insulting. Amara flew through it. Then the next, her pencil steady. By page 3, pre-calculus loomed, but it felt familiar, like a library night with Malik. The calculus section hit on page for integrals, derivatives, problems she'd wrestled with under flashlight. She worked methodically, pausing to double-check, her nerves fading as the numbers sang. Outside, Ms. Brooks sat quietly, reading, while another teacher, Mr. Patel, waited to review the test. "She's really that good?" he asked, curious. "Better," Brooks said, smiling. After 40 minutes, Monroe stepped out, her face unreadable. "She's done," she said, holding a stack of papers. "And she's asking for more." Patel's eyebrows shot up. "In 40 minutes?" Monroe nodded, fetching extra sheets. Amara kept writing, offering alternate solutions, her reasoning neat and clear. When she finished, an hour early, she felt calm, like she'd said everything she needed to. Monroe collected the test, her eyes flickering with something new respect. "Maybe we'll review and meet at lunch," she said. As Amara left, whispers followed her down the hall, classmates, curious, no longer laughing. For once, she didn't mind the eyes. They weren't judging, they were seeing. At 12:30, Amara entered Monroe's office, her heart steady now. Brooks sat with a warm smile, Patel beside her, his copy of the test marked with checks. Evelyn was absent, her chair empty. "Sit, Amara," Monroe said, gesturing to a cushioned seat, a small kindness that wasn't lost on her. "We reviewed your test. You answered every question correctly, with multiple methods for the calculus problems." Patel nodded. "Your work shows creativity and depth rare for any student, let alone your age." Amara's cheeks warmed, but she stayed quiet. "Ms. Harper was wrong," Monroe said, her voice firm. "I'm sorry for doubting you. You're exceptional." Amara blinked back tears, the words sinking deep. "What now?" Brooks asked, echoing Amara's thoughts. Monroe straightened. "First, we'll create a plan to challenge Amara high school math, maybe college courses. Second, we're investigating Ms. Harper's actions." "Those marks," she paused, eyes softening. "They're not your fault." A knock interrupted. Dr. Malik Jordan stepped in, his gray beard framing a kind smile. "I'm Malik Jordan, math professor at Crestwood College," he said. "Amara's mentor." Monroe's eyes widened. "Mentor?" "For 6 months," Malik said. "Sitting. She's one of the brightest minds I've seen undergrad-level calculus. Intuitive, brilliant." Evelyn's absence loomed larger. "You taught her?" Patel asked, impressed. "I guided," Malik corrected. "Amara taught herself. I just gave her tools." He held up her test, smiling. "This? Pure Amara. Elegant, precise second-year college work." Monroe leaned back, stunned. "Why, we know." "She's quiet," Malik said. "But quiet doesn't mean small." He looked at Amara, proud. "You shone today." Monroe nodded, resolute. "We failed you, Amara, but we'll do better. Dr. Jordan, can you help us build her plan?" "My privilege," he said warmly. As they left, Amara felt lighter, like a weight had lifted. The halls buzzed, classmates whispering, some nodding, Corey among them, his usual smirk gone. "Is it true you ace college math?" he asked at lunch, sliding onto her bench. "Yeah," Amara said, shy but firm. Others joined, curious, their questions kind. For the first time, she wasn't invisible, she was seen. That afternoon, Amara's mom sat in Monroe's office. Her janitor's uniform creased from a long shift. Photos of Amara's welts lay on the desk, her mom's eyes wet but fierce. "I trusted this school," she said, voice shaking. "We moved here for better, and you let her hurt my girl." Monroe bowed her head. "I'm sorry." Ms. Harper's on leave, under investigation. It won't happen again. Amara's mom gripped her hand. She's brilliant. My Amara always was. Monroe slid over a folder. We've planned advanced math, mentorship with Dr. Jordan. She'll soar. Amara's mom smiled, tears falling. She already is. Across town, Evelyn Harper sat in her quiet condo, a termination letter on her table, 27 years teaching, undone. Her phone buzzed, colleagues' names flashing, but she didn't answer. Malik's visit yesterday lingered as words about Amara's gift, her own fear of it, her need to control. She'd seen Amara's brilliance early, in quick answers, sharp questions, but unsettled her girl from nowhere, outshining her decades of study. Now alone, she faced the truth. She dimmed a light to protect her own. Her hands trembled, the letter blurring through tears. That night, Crestwood's boardroom overflowed parents, students, reporters packing the seats. Board Chair Diana Lee opened the meeting, her voice steady. "We're here to address allegations at Crestwood Middle," she said, nodding to Monroe. Monroe detailed Amara's ordeal to mockery, the welts, her genius unveiled. "We failed her," she said, "but we're acting." Amara sat with her mom, Malik beside them, uncomfortable under the crowd's gaze but held by their warmth. Her mom spoke first, voice fierce. "My girl suffered because no one listened. That's not just one teacher. It's a broken trust." Brooks followed, urging support for gifted kids. Parents demanded change, their anger palpable. Then Corey stood, nervous. "I laughed at Amara," he said, glancing at her. "I thought it was normal. If I saw it, why didn't you?" His words silenced the room, a child's honesty cutting deep. Lee raised a hand. "We've heard you. First, Ms. Harper's employment is terminated, her license under review." Applause erupted, quickly hushed. "Second, we're banning physical discipline, mandating abuse training, and creating a gifted program. To Amara and her family, we're sorry and we'll do better." Amara's mom squeezed her hand, tears in her eyes. As the meeting ended, people surrounded Amara, classmates, teachers, strangers offering support, admiration. She smiled, overwhelmed but grounded. In the car, her mom hugged her tight. "I'm so proud, baby, not just for your brain, but your heart." "I was scared," Amara admitted. "But you didn't quit," her mom said. "That's everything." 3 months later, Crestwood Middle shone with change. Posters preached inclusion. A gifted program lifted 15 kids. And teachers really listened. Amara, now in high school math classes, tutored younger students in the library, her explanations sparking their eyes. "You make it so clear," a 6th grader said, grinning. Ms. Brooks watched, proud. "You're a teacher already," she said. Amara blushed, thinking of Malik's summer program offer. "I'm still getting used to being seen," she admitted. "You'll get there," Brooks said. "Don't hide your light." Passing Mr. Nguyen's classroom, once Evelyn's Amara saw kids laughing, engaged, free. "Some good came from this," she said softly. "Because of you," Brooks replied. Outside, her mom's car waited, a new routine since the meeting. Amara waved, her heart full, ready for whatever came next. When we dim a child's light, we dim our future. Amara's courage reminds us to see every kid's potential, no matter who they are. If her story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and share where you're watching from. Comment, what did Amara's fight teach you? Let's keep her spark alive together.